Hello and welcome to the tutorial video for teachers and educators about Google Calendar. So I am a huge supporter of Google Calendar because I think it really helps our students keep track of their schedule and where they're supposed to be, especially during this distance learning time since we're not able to go pick up students from particular classrooms or take them to other teachers. So the Google Calendar feature is really nice to help students know where they are supposed to be. So Google Calendar is a Google app, and you can find it through the 9.Google app drop-down menu, and Calendar is an option right here. So once you have your Google Calendar loaded, on the left-hand side are all of your different calendars. It's kind of awkward when you explain it, but within your Google Calendar, you can have multiple calendars, and you can create your own if you have maybe specific topics. So let's say, for example, you wanted to create a calendar that only talked about staff meetings. You could share that calendar then with all other members of your staff, and then they would have access to all of the events within that calendar. The other way to use Google Calendar is within Google Classroom. So if you are not familiar with Google Classroom, I recommend that you go watch that video first and then join this one, because I have already created a Google Classroom that I'm going to use as my example here for Google Calendar. So just to remind us, I have made a Google Classroom Math Miss Kate for 8th grade. So I've made this classroom, and if you notice now on my calendar, I have a calendar with the same name as my Google Classroom. That's because they are linked. So anybody who is a member of this classroom, whether it's a teacher or a student, and you know that because they're added here under people, when they go to their calendar, it will automatically be added as a calendar. It may be turned off, and you know that when the box next to it is open or empty, and it just needs to be turned on to make sure there is a check. Okay. One of the great things about Google Calendar is that it shows you where you are in time at all times. So that's where this red bar is. So you can see right now, for me, it's August the 9th on Sunday, right before 10 o'clock, and it's showing me that with this red bar. Now, one of the great things about Google Calendar, like I was saying, is that it's linked with the other apps. So let's say I have a scheduled meeting every Monday from 10 to 12 o'clock with my 8th grade class about math. So that means every Monday from 10 to 12 o'clock. So I'm going to add that as an event. So this is called, let's say, Math with Miss Kate, or whatever you want to call your class. Like I said, it's from 10 to 12, and it's every Monday. So instead of me having to add it every Monday, I can make the event repeat. So right here, right now, it's automatically set to do not repeat. I'm going to change that. I want it to be weekly on Monday. Now you can select these options, or you can just customize it. By default, I customize every time, but it is up to you. So I want it to repeat every week. I want it to be every Monday. If I met with my students every Monday and Wednesday, I would click Monday and Wednesday. If it was Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you would select all of them. Let's say you meet every day. So I selected all those choices. Notice Saturday and Sunday are not clicked because we don't have school on Saturday and Sunday. So I'm going to leave mine as every Monday. And I can even put an ending date. So for example, I know that our last day of school is going to be on June 4th. Now, hopefully we don't do distance learning all year, but if we do, I'm going to prepare this way. So now I can just press done. Okay, so if I hold my classes on, let's say, Zoom, I would need to copy the URL link to Zoom, and I could put it right here in Add Location. I could also copy and paste all the information down here, but if I want my students to be able to click into my meeting without having to type in any other information, you want to make sure the link is where it says Add Location. If you're using Google Meets, you can create a new one right here, and if you don't know how to do that, go ahead and jump over to my video about Google Meet. But basically, this is where you're going to add the direct link to your class. So hold on one second. I'm going to jump over and grab one on Zoom. Okay, So I have copied all of the invitation information from a Zoom meeting, and I'm now pasting it into the description here. This is just a random one, but the key is to highlight the specific URL link. I'm copying that and pasting that in my location. Now that it's pasted into the location spot, I can save it. And now when I click on it, all I have to do is click this link and it automatically opens up all my information about Zoom. That way you don't have to worry about students not having the right password or the right session ID. You can embed it to the scheduled event. Now, when a student is enrolled in my Google Classroom, this will appear as an option for them on the left. Notice again, when I uncheck it, it doesn't show up. So you need to make sure that all of your students have checked the Google Classroom calendar as on. Now, notice I move ahead week by week. There is my scheduled Monday morning meeting every single Monday, and I can just click the link to join. We all know that we don't meet every Monday, right? There will be a week or at some point, whether it's some of the scheduled breaks or for whatever other reason, is when you're not actually having this event. So let's say I do have a meeting this Monday, but next Monday is a holiday. That's okay. You can click on the specific scheduled event, click the trash can button, but make sure you're paying attention to which one is selected here. Because this event is selected, only that specific scheduled event will be thrown away or deleted. I could select this and future events, meaning this one and any one that's coming up in the future needs to be deleted, but any events prior to the one I have selected will not be deleted. The third option is all events. This means every single event that is connected to this one, so either a future or a past one that's in the repetition, will be deleted. So most likely you're going to use this event one. Notice I'm selecting OK. It's deleted it, but the following week is still there, and the previous week is still there. So that's a great way to go ahead and set up all of your meetings as recurring, and then you can just go in and delete any on days that are off or that are not a part of the regular schedule. Okay. So let's say you want to invite somebody to a meeting. So let's say I have an afternoon meeting. I'm going to select more options. I'm going to change this to my normal calendar because I don't want it to be included on my Google Classroom. So make sure you are paying attention to which calendar it's specifically adding it to. And so if I go back here, let me start from the first option here. That is going to be your personal one. So I'm going to create a new event and invite people to it. So I can either use the create button on the left here, or I can just click on my week. So let's say I have a meeting on Wednesday at 2. So I clicked there. I can select more options, so that way it gives me all of my editing choices. Let's say it's a grading meeting. I make sure the date is correct. I make sure the time is correct. This isn't a recurring meeting, so I'm not going to select that. I can add a Google Meet, or I can add the specific link of Zoom. For this, I'm just going to use the Google Meet. I can set up a notification if I want to, a certain amount of time, either minutes, hours, days, or weeks. You can change this, and it can either send you an email or notify you on your computer if you have that turned on. I can decide whether I want to be noted as busy or free. Remember, if you have something selected as busy, then if somebody else tries to invite you to an event that overlaps in that time, they will be notified that you are busy during that time. But if it's not something in which you're quote-unquote busy, you can change it to free. But if it's a meeting that you're going to be in, you probably will leave it as busy. You can add any information here that you need, and then you can add guests. So notice I've clicked on Add Guest. Any recent communication you've had will drop down here as the different choices, or you can just type it in, click and type in the specific email of that person. Okay. Once I have everything set up the way I want, I will select Save, and now that event is listed here. I do a lot of color coding. I think it's very helpful. So if you have a bunch of different calendars, you can change all of the event colors. So notice, let's say I want mine to be purple. See how it changed to purple? Or I can select that option to be yellow. You can change it however you want. You can also change the color of a specific event. So notice all of my events within this Google Classroom, the Math Miss Kate 8th grade, are all pink. But I could change one in particular by going to Edit and selecting to change the color of just that one event. So if coloring is helpful for you or your students, I would recommend you do that as well. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you can have multiple calendars, and so sometimes you may want to create an entire calendar about a specific topic. So for example, as a middle school teacher, let's say I want to make a calendar for all middle school related things. So I would need to make a new calendar. And I can do that down here where it says Other Calendars. I'm going to press a little plus sign, and I'm going to select the Create New Calendar option. I would give it a title, let's say Middle School Department. I could go, whoops, that's not department. I could give it a description and specific time zone, but I'm going to keep it with where I'm at, and I can create the calendar. Now that I've created this new calendar, I can actually share it with other people. So I'm going to go back. Notice here I now have a new calendar, Middle School Department. I can change the color, but I like how it automatically selects the color that I don't already have. So I'm going to leave it as orange, but you could always change that color. And then you're going to select the settings and sharing. When I click that, there's a lot here. But the basic ones that you're going to want is to add individuals to the calendar. So down at the bottom, I've only scrolled a little bit. You can see access permissions. Most likely if you're dealing with school-related things, you probably will not want it to be public, but you may want to select it so that anybody within your domain, so that means all people with access to your school would be able to see it. You can get a shareable link. So when I click this, I can just copy this link and email it or send it to anybody saying, here, I've made a new calendar, add yourself. Or I can add people. So right below, it says share with specific people. I can select the add people option, and from here I could type in anybody's name. And then I can change what I want them to be able to do. So if I just want people to be able to see the events and not make any kind of changes, I would select the See All Event Details. If I wanted them to be able to make changes to the events, so whether it's details, times, maybe add their own events to our shared calendar, I could select Make Changes to Event. Or if I want someone to have complete control to be able to add other teachers or remove other teachers, I would choose the last option here, Make Changes and Manage Sharing. So it depends on what you want others to be able to do with your calendar. So then at the end, when you go back, you'll see you're going to start to collect multiple calendars. So if you have multiple Google Classrooms, you would have multiple Google Classroom calendars listed here. If you are a part of different departments or different groups, you may have a bunch as well. And then you still have your personal one here at the top. So remember, I can click and unclick to turn on specific calendars or not. Hopefully this is helpful for just a general overview of how to use Calendar and specifically how it connects with Google Classroom.